All advice given is for general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Hey, good afternoon. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions live on the air, 540-0580. Let's go with a couple things. So if you have a question, call in with it, but I got to update you guys on a few things. As you heard in the news today, Amanda Knox is in her Italian prosecution on appeal trying to get evidence knocked out and put more in. And I just want to take it as an opportunity to remind you that generally on an appeal here in the States, you don't get to retry the case. You don't get to talk about new evidence, bring in new experts, new things like that. In Italy, half of all criminal prosecutions are overturned on appeal because it's a continual trial, meaning you continue to bring evidence, you can continue to call witnesses. In America, Pennsylvania, for instance, you have your trial in the trial court, and then you have your appeals in the appellate court, and the appellate court only gets the dry transcript, the evidence. Appellate courts do not take new evidence as a general rule, and so it's important to remember that whatever evidence you're intending to present in your trial or in your case, custody case, whatever in Pennsylvania, it all needs to come in the first instance. I've had clients actually say to me, and that's why I thought about pointing this out, oh, well, we can't call that witness for the trial, but we can always bring that witness in on appeal, and I want to look at them and say, what? And what I'm actually thinking is, no, you can't bring a witness in on appeal. You've got to bring the witness to the trial. We don't bring witnesses to appeals. However, if you listen to the news and you listen to the Amanda Knox case, you would think that, well, you can bring witnesses to appeal. So anyhow, in Italy, it's a different legal system. You can do that. Pennsylvania, you cannot. 540-0580. Call in if you've got a divorce question, a property use question, whatever you guys want to talk about, personal injury. Somebody asked me to, again, reiterate about insurance coverage. If you have auto insurance here in Pennsylvania, you want to make sure you have full tort, not limited tort. And full tort insurance covers pain and suffering. Limited tort does not, except under special circumstances. And those special circumstances rarely exist, so it hurts your ability to bring a legal case. So again, if you have auto insurance, make sure it's full tort. Make sure you also carry uninsured, underinsured. That's insurance that pays if you're injured and your insurance isn't sufficient or the other person didn't have insurance, it's going to cover that. The other thing you need to carry is first-party insurance, which is PIP, or your own coverage, which is for medical, wage loss, etc. I would strongly recommend at least $100,000 in medicals. Now, to give you an idea, the state minimum is $5,000. So if you only have $5,000 in medicals on your auto insurance, get that raised to $100,000. And if your liability policy is only, say, $15,000, or $50,000 even, you need to get that up to $100,000 if you can. Now, I know that there's some people out there who, for whatever reason, maybe have 3 DUIs or 22 traffic accidents that it's a little expensive. I know I got some calls being screened here, 540-0580. I also wanted to mention, and I think this is noteworthy, although it's a little off topic, the guys at CERN have been pumping some neutrinos into another facility, and they've now found that they're moving faster than the speed of light. And if neutrinos can move faster than the speed of light, then we have to rethink our physics. So I thought that's worth noting. In case you're wondering what a neutrino is, it's basically an electron without any charge. And they are thought to move close to the speed of light. But if they're getting there faster than the speed of light, then that changes the entire physics of the universe as we know it, which means the aliens probably are here, which means you can listen to this radio station late at night and actually believe what you hear. Yeah, there it is, up all night, or coast to coast. Oh, I love it. Norm, you're on the air with Carl Rominger. My talk line number is 540-0580. What's going on, Norm?
Hey, I happen to be one of the officers of a local union, and one of our people was affected by the flood. And what happened was he just recently financed his home, and he's in the floodplain, and he lost everything in his house. I'm wondering if there's some avenue we could take to help this guy out. Like, could that be negligence or something? If you're in, because he used to have his flood insurance in escrow, and when he went to get his insurance honored. They said, well, we canceled that because it wasn't part of your loan. Isn't it mandatory that you have flood insurance to be able to finance a home when you're in a floodplain?
Most lenders, most lenders, and most banking regulations, therefore all lenders, do require that. So in my mind, he should have had it, and it may be there may be a level of professional negligence there. Absolutely.
So I should direct him to maybe seek some legal counsel or something?
I would absolutely direct him to do that.
Okay. Why, thank you very, very much. I hope you might have saved his home.
All right, well, I hope so. Okay, all right, if you need anything, let me know, and just call back in and report what you find out.
All right. Thank you very
my
much.
friend.
Have a great day.
You too. 540-0580. Dan, you're on the air.
Yes, Carl, I have a question about DUI. Not specifically in Pennsylvania, but just let's say you're vacationing in one of the neighboring states, Delaware, Maryland, or something like that, and you don't really know the laws. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, 0.8 to me anyway. But just say you have 3 beers and you leave the bar and you get in one of these notorious traffic stops out of state. If you would decline a breathalyzer or an alcohol test in Pennsylvania, you lose your license. What happens if you decline one in a bordering state?
Yeah, and every state does it differently. And so, for instance, here in Pennsylvania, you can decline the portable breath test or the roadside one. Florida, for instance, you can decline the test unless they get a warrant. And so now in some of the, and I should say the test, some of the tests you can decline unless they get a warrant. So, for instance, they've actually been putting judges right out at the checkpoint so that they can get the warrant if they need it, so they can take your license. I think Virginia has some other rules, and Virginia can actually take your license right at the scene if you refuse. My point being is, what's good advice about, here in Pennsylvania about refusal or non-refusal? Like when I tell people you can refuse the portable breath test, every state's different on that one. So if you're planning on drinking and driving out of state, I guess what you do is you look it up before you get there. But since none of us, and most good people never, and most people get DUIs are generally good people, don't plan that. That's not their conscious intent to go out and get drunk in Virginia, so they're not studying up on what they can and can't refuse. To get back to the meat of your question, though, once you've been deemed to have refused in that other state, they will certify to the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, and we will reciprocate on the suspension.
Okay, so they will reciprocate. Because I was curious. I mean, they don't honor our carry permits in Maryland or Delaware. So I didn't know if they reciprocate on other rules. So they actually do.
Yeah, they do. And I'll give you an interesting example, though.
Carl, let me ask you this question: if you were convicted in that state, in any of the Maryland or Delaware or something like that, would that be reciprocal as well? You lose your Pennsylvania license?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That was my question. And it never happened, and I don't intend to drink and drive, but I just was curious. I listen to your show all the time, and I hear these stories, and I just was kind of curious what would happen in the other states.
And Dan, I'll just
I said, our gun laws aren't reciprocal.
Yeah, I know. Trust me. And I'll give you a funny little one right here, which is we represent a lot of people. We have a Chambersburg office. So we get a lot of Maryland people who get DUIs in Franklin County.
Okay.
And when the driver's license suspensions used to be like a month or two or so, they still are for ARD, but when you have these short suspensions, Maryland would not reciprocate most of the time. Sometimes they would, and so the Maryland guys would be like, what's going to happen to my license in Maryland? And you'd look at them and go, I have no idea. I guess if you call your Department of Transportation and tell them what happened, maybe they will reciprocate, but we find that they only take about half of what Pennsylvania sends them and act on it.
Okay.
So you're going to lose your license to drive in Pennsylvania. Even though it's a Maryland license, you'll be unprivileged in this state. But if Maryland doesn't do anything, then you can still drive in the other 49 states.
But if Maryland or Delaware send something to Pennsylvania, they'll jump all over it.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I was curious. Thanks, Carl.
All right, brother, take care. I got to go to break. When I get back from break, I will talk with Skip, 540-0580. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions.
Let's return to Weekend Appointment with Carl Rominger on WHP 580.
Oh, Dr. Savage. I like listening to him as well. We got all the music and all the bumpers, man. 540-0580. Skip, you're on the air with Carl Rominger.
Hey, good afternoon, Carl. Hey, I had the pleasure of, I had an appointment with Robert Culling, Kulling, one of your associates.
Okay.
On Thursday, and boy, I'm telling you, that guy is a great guy, very helpful, very cordial. I just wanted to pass that on.
I appreciate to hear that.
And it's nice that you do have an office right there in Harrisburg. Very, very helpful. Now, there was one question I forgot to ask him, and it has to do with a child custody case. What if the grandmother is probably going to be awarded custody of the child, and she as much as told the mother of the child that once she gets custody of her, that the mother will never be able to see the child, even though the child would like to see the mother. Can the grandmother do that legally?
The short answer is if it's custody and not termination of parental rights, at some point, no. I mean, the grandmother has custody. She's going to have to facilitate in the non-custodial parent custody. In fact, the statute itself says she will. Oh. So she doesn't, that would be deemed to be a breach of the order, or at least the law. But, of course, there's always this thing, if mom's such a threat to the child, or there's a reason why the child needs to be kept away from mom, mom's doing heroin or something.
Yeah, no, it's because she doesn't have a place for the child to live and she doesn't have a job. So they're going to have a hearing this coming Monday in Cumberland County and probably give the custody of the child to the grandmother. Yeah,
but and here's the other thing: grandma may lose that custody eventually as well. See, grandma's not a natural parent, okay?
Right.
And the case law and the Constitution and the way it reads tends to suggest that when the parent is fit, ready, and able, they're going to trump the grandparent. I've had cases where the grandparents have been heavily involved, but if the parents are fit and able, the courts will swing back towards the parents. In fact, I just had a case where the grandparents got custody in a case where their child was deceased, but the court automatically on its own, basically, they don't always do this, but on its own scheduled out a hearing out over a year from now, basically saying, I'm going to bring everybody back in and we're going to see how mom's doing to see if we should look at thinking about sending the kids back with mom instead of keeping them with grandparents.
But in the interim period of that, for example, you just gave me, could the mother still visit and see the child?
Yeah, and the order should accommodate for that. That's one of the things the judge is going to address most likely at the hearing, and she should make sure she asks for that.
Okay. And just one other question. There's a term, guardian
ad litem.
Okay, what is that?
That is when a judge appoints a person in a custody case to act as the guardian for the child, and their job is to pretend that they're. The best way to explain a guardian is like this: a child's not really competent to make decisions as an adult. Okay, So the guardian ad litem basically talks to the child, appraises what they think is in the child's best interest by pretending, I guess, that they were the child. In other words, what would this kid say if they had the maturity of an adult about their own situation, and what is the kid telling me? So if you're a guardian ad litem for a 6-year-old, you're probably just going to make your own independent evaluation of the case and tell the judge what it is from the standpoint of the child. If you're the guardian ad litem for a 16-year-old, you're probably going to talk extensively with the child and then take what they tell you and then filter it through to the judge, basically saying, here's how I think this case should resolve from the standpoint of my client, the child, not the standpoint of the parents. And as you can imagine, think about a typical custody case. Mom wants custody, dad wants custody. Guardian ad litem might say, well, both parents want custody, but here's what, from the kid's point of view, seems to be the best. Now the judge gets 3 positions instead of 2.
Okay, now those hearings usually take place before a master, right?
If it's a custody hearing, it's going to take place in front of a judge. The initial hearing will take place in front of a master who's called a conciliator. If it's a dependency hearing, it'll take place in front of a dependency judge, and that's when children use involved generally.
Okay, thanks a lot, Carl. Appreciate it.
All right, Skip. And hey, thanks for all the great compliments.
Oh, yeah, he's a great guy. Thanks a lot.
All right, take care. 540-0580. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions on this fine Saturday afternoon. Rick, you're on the air.
Hi. Hey, I was considering buying a small home through an auction sale.
Okay.
And I'm looking to avoid any pitfalls and maybe get some information on the deed that's going to come with it.
Well, okay. The biggest, let me go backwards on a real estate auction. The biggest pitfalls at real estate auctions are that you don't have time to know a lot about the property if you literally just roll into the auction, okay? So
right.
Ahead of time, if a sophisticated buyer is going to do a title search and get some work done ahead of time to know what kinds of liens and other issues there might be with the property, but let's assume for a minute that the auctioneer makes that available, that there's a title search that's already done. The next...
Yeah, he told me it was going to come with a general warranty deed.
Right. Well, yeah, but the other side gives you a general warranty deed. But before you accept it, you want to make sure that it's okay. I mean, I can write a deed for the Brooklyn Bridge. Okay, doesn't mean I own it. Now, the general warranty deed means theoretically they're going to defend it. But what if it's a bankrupt estate? You know, I mean, so you get to sue a bankrupt estate. Anyhow, the other biggest pitfall that we see is that people come to an auction and they pay too much for the property, thinking that they're going to be able to get bank financing to finish it off. So if you need bank financing, you need to make sure ahead of time two things. Number one, that you have enough financing available to you. And number two, that the estate or the real estate will appraise high enough to cover the loan. And so I actually had a case one time where somebody bid a property up to like, I don't know, 340 or something like that. And the bank came back and said it's worth 300. We're not writing a loan on it. And they had to put 10% down. So they had to put down like $34,000. Well, guess what happens to their $34,000 when you put it down at the auction but can't do the closing within 30 days?
Yeah, then you've lost your earnest money or whatever you call it.
In my estimation, if you're going to buy a property at auction, you've got to really know what it's worth if you're planning on using bank financing and that you have money available. If you're just a guy who has $152,000 in a bank account somewhere, well, you can bid it up to $150,000. And if you're a little high, well, it's just your cash, right?
Right.
So those are a couple pitfalls and thoughts.
Right. My biggest concern, the financing, I'm kind of going to do the other way, where I own my home in the clear and was going to borrow money directly against my primary house.
Mm-hmm. So you probably go to the banker ahead of time and say, how much could I borrow against this house?
Right. Exactly.
And at least. Right, and then you know.
They can give me an answer within a day or two for how much I can borrow, and would take 2 to 3 weeks to actually make the funds available.
Yeah, and then at the auction, they're going to want some money down.
Right, exactly. They want 10% down. Now, my thought on it again was back to the deed. Is it worth paying I think they're called abstractors to actually do a title search for me?
I would go to the auctioneer and ask, is there an abstract done? And sometimes they'll provide those at the auction. But if they say no, we're not going to be providing an abstract. Yeah, for about $100 I shouldn't put words in people's mouth. Right? I don't know what they're going to charge you, but right. I usually pay anywhere from $100 to $200 for an abstract generally.
I see.
Usually closer to $150, but sometimes, and I got one guy that does them really cheap. I got other people who can do them like yesterday, but when you need them yesterday, then they're like $250.
Right, I understand that. And I guess my last question for you is, should I have an attorney representing me at the closing?
Well, the short answer is I believe you should. I believe you should always have an attorney at the closing. And if you're going to borrow money, you're not going to need title insurance, but we're probably going to want to at least make sure we can certify the title. So yeah, you have those concerns as well. So yeah, it doesn't hurt to have an attorney at the closing. And because you're the buyer, somebody needs to do it.
Right. Okay, that's my biggest concern is that I don't buy the deed to the Brooklyn Bridge that you happen to
which I have. Available. I have 3 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
3 highest bidders.
Okay. And is that something your office actually would handle? Do they handle real estate transactions like that?
Absolutely. We do quite a few real estate transactions, actually. Now, I kind of joke about that. A few years back, we were doing a lot of real estate transactions, and something happened to the real estate market, and it slowed down for a while, but it's coming back.
Right, and that's kind of my thought is get in while they're low. Yeah.
No, let me put it this way. If you have no, this is not investment advice, but in my mind, this is probably the best time if somebody has free cash. I think you could go down to Lee County, Florida, and buy up half of the foreclosed homes there for about $3 a piece. But you have to have the cash. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I'm not sitting on all kinds of cash,
but have access to some. Yeah.
Right, have access to some. Okay, and would your offices help me find an abstractor, or is that something I should be doing on my own?
That's something we could do for you very easily. Tammy in my office would probably want to put you together with me or Steve Snyder, and then all we need to do is just order the abstract. It's pretty simple.
Okay.
Only problem with ordering an abstract on something at auction is obviously you don't have it under contract, so we usually don't order the abstract until we have the sales agreement done so that we know there's a pretty high chance we're purchasing it. For auction purposes, however, we do the abstract, and I can tell you, like sometimes if guys are going to a tax sale, I mean, they'll do 30 abstracts, but that's a sophisticated buyer. Here you got one property, so it's not a bad investment for the safety.
Right.
All right, my friend, I got to go to break here.
I appreciate your help. Thank you.
All right, take care. 540-0580, 540-0580. Carl Rominger answering your questions. When I get back from the break, we'll talk with Ron. 540-0580, Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. During the break, we were just discussing the possible connections between Shane Bauer and the guy with the watch in Pulp Fiction. So if you can draw two and two together, I still don't think you go hiking in Iran for the fun. Hey, let's go to Iraq and walk around in the war-torn war side and maybe just kind of, we'll wander along the border with Iran, and then we'll wonder, come on, now they're spies. Come on. Can't we just admit it at this point now that we have them back? All right, Ron, you're on the air, 540-0580. What's going on?
Hi, Carl. Situation I have is my mother passed away in June, and we owned a property which she signed half of it over to me while she was alive. And so when she passed, the property came to me. But in the will, she addresses, I'm thinking I'm the only beneficiary, but in the will, she says to her daughter, I leave her my love and affection. Now, I went up and filed the paperwork, got a letter of administration, all that, and Register of Will sent me a letter the other day, telling me I need to notify all those beneficiaries. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of looked at that, and I thought, well, is she really a beneficiary as far as the state's concerned?
I guess for purpose, as far as the rules of the Orphans Court are concerned, they require you to notify all the beneficiaries in the will of the will and what their rights are. And I guess the mere mention is probably enough to trigger that. And as a lawyer, I wouldn't even take time to figure that out. I would just go ahead and figure, just to be safe than sorry, I'll just send the required notice. It's basically a letter that says, hey, you're named in a will. Here's a copy of the portion of the will that names you. Mm-hmm. We'll get back to you if there's any distribution. So I guess technically that's what they're trying to tell you to do.
Right. All right. Well, to me, a beneficiary means that you receive something.
Right. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but she is the beneficiary in the will somehow because she's named, and I guess that's what they're looking for. They want to basically go, is everybody who's named in the will got notice of the will? Mm-hmm. And of course, let's change it to she left her a peppercorn, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I guess you'd have to write her a letter that says you're getting a peppercorn. In this case, it's a letter that says, here's what's in the will, and it's love and affection.
Yeah. All right.
Make sure you do all your advertising and your estate tax return and all that other good stuff.
Yeah. When you say advertising, I've already settled everybody, as far as any outstanding debts. I took care of all that.
Yeah, but you'd have to take out ads as required by law in the local law journal and probably a newspaper of general circulation in the county, if I remember right.
Okay.
So there's a couple hoops you got to jump through. Just make sure you do them, because if you do all those, that's how you make sure that everything's free and clear and don't have problems later on.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, my friend.
Yep. Thank you.
540-0580. Yeah, a lot of estates go, I call it partly administrated. It might be the best way to say it. Diane, you're trying to find a deadbeat.
Yeah. He took off. He met a girl on the internet after we had broken up and took off the day after my daughter's 7th birthday.
Okay.
And I can't find him. He's all over the internet, but the information that I'm looking for to be able to serve him any kind of papers, like we don't have any custody arrangement or anything when he left.
Well,
so I'm really nervous that he's going to get married and come back and try to get her. And
yeah, and here's the answer. I mean, first of all, in my office, for example, we have a service that we subscribe to that we could run them through and see if we can find an address. But if we can't, and we do some diligence, the judge will let us serve by publication and get a custody order so that if he does show up, he's going to have to come to court to modify it, not just pick the kid up at school and run away.
Okay.
So there's
that's a concern. I'm not sure. I mean, I haven't had contact with him, and she's 8.5 now. So in a year and a half, I have had no contact with him.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good idea to get that in place. Did you also file for child support?
Well, see, that was my thing. I was trying to file for child support. I spent a day at the courthouse getting sent from one place to the next nobody really being able to answer my question because of the fact that I didn't know where he was.
Gotcha.
They were, well, when you find him, this is, the online information for how you can start custody paperwork. But I have nothing.
Yeah, and we call it service by publication, and I've actually done quite a few divorces, for instance, where the people are nowhere to be found, and we just have to walk it through for service by publication. We've done the same with child custody as well. And a lot of times the judge will put right in the order, basically, having been served by publication, the defendant's free to petition the court to change his order if and when he resurfaces. Also, if he has had no contact with the child, and at some point you remarry, you'd be eligible to do a step-parent adoption because you'd be able to terminate his parental rights for not having contact in 6 months.
Okay. Yeah, I wondered about that. Someone else had mentioned to me about if I had terminated his parental rights, and I said, well, I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah, can't do that.
We were supposed to sit down before he left, and he never chose to do that.
You can't terminate parental rights unless there's somebody ready, willing, and able to adopt in a general setting. Only the government can terminate a parental right without an adoptive parent ready, willing, and able. So.
Okay. Well, then that's cool. This is something that your office can take care of. I actually signed up for your website about a month ago.
Oh, okay.
And just had not gotten around to asking the question yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I know I can head in that direction, that would be fantastic.
Yep, and just remind whoever you talk to that you talked with me on the radio, and maybe I can fill them in on what I said.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate your help.
All right, Diane, you take care.
Have a great day.
You too. 540-0580. Dawn, you're up next. Hey, Dawn.
Hello?
Yep.
Oh, thanks for taking my call.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm not going anywhere.
I have a property question for you. I own a house that was built in 1957 in a borough, and it's a Cape Cod, and there's a small kitchenette and a bathroom upstairs on the second floor, and a bedroom, of course, and it's accessible from the downstairs and the outside. And now on the deed it says it's a one-unit house, but the borough now wants to make it a two-unit house.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm asking if they can legally do that.
The borough wants to do that.
Right.
And why are they saying they want to do that?
Well, I guess they want to charge me a second sewer bill because I have a friend living upstairs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have to look at their tapping ordinance. If you have it's a general rule. If you have a single dwelling house, okay,
right,
then they're going to charge you one tapping fee and one sewer fee. What you're going to find out is if there's multiple units in the house, then you're going to get a tapping fee for each, and you're going to get multiple bills for each. And I remember having this with Mount Holly Borough years ago because I had a client who turned a building or house that had three apartments. He turned it into 3 apartments, and he was livid about having to pay 3 tapping fees. He's like, well, I understand they want to bill each one of them separate and pay, but why do I have to pay for 3 tapping fees? We only have to connect once. And I was like, because that's their ordinance. So my sneaking suspicion is, without having read their ordinance, they probably can do what they're telling you.
Right, but you see, the house on a deed, it says it's a one unit, and I never made any changes to the house.
Right, so he's just a tenant in there, but you never made any changes, but he is a tenant, and so the next question is, does the fact that the deeds of control, or does the reality control? I'm guessing reality controls, but I don't know.
Okay, so
I'm guessing it controls.
So I don't have any way to fight it then?
How much money are we talking about?
For sewer?
Yeah.
Not much.
Yeah.
Probably $130 every 3 months.
Right. So the answer is, for $500, maybe I can figure it out and then tell you the bad news is because my sneaking suspicion is they can do it.
Okay.
That's my sneaking suspicion. And I think for $500, I'd end up telling you that my 99% right answer is 100% right. But on that 1% chance, then you'd start saving money after the first year or two.
Correct.
So my thought on the matter is it's probably not worth it. And generally, you could ask the guy to show you, say, where are you getting this from? Mm-hmm. Show me in your ordinance where it says you can do this.
Well, it says if you have a kitchen and a bathroom on another level,
mm-hmm.
then we consider that another unit inside the house because there is 2 kitchens and 2 bathrooms.
Gotcha.
one on each floor.
I used to live in a house like that where there was a kitchen and a bathroom on every floor. Yeah.
But like I said, when I purchased the house on the deed, it said it was one unit.
Right. And you know, listen, I mean, so if somebody buys, let's ask it this way. If somebody buys a house in 1943 and the deed says it's one unit, and over the years they do make changes to it, the deed's not going to get updated.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably reality that controls, not what was written in the deed 30 years ago.
Okay, but like I said, the house has never.
Yeah, no, I understand.
To it.
I understand. And by the way, you know who writes deeds, right? The parties do, not the township. So, I mean, if you and I were going to do some new construction, right, and I put kitchen on each level, but you go, hey, Carl, just write the deed to say it's only one unit. I mean, really, is that going to control, or does reality control?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of the reason I would think, too. That's just me thinking out loud, okay?
Right. Okay, well, thanks for taking my call and have a good weekend.
No problem. You too. 540-0580. Kevin, you're on the air.
Hey, Carl. How can you retain all this information? It drives me nuts.
I take green tea supplements.
I drink green tea, but it ain't working. No, I'm sorry. Anyway, hey, I'm in one of the final processes of getting I guess you would want to call a hearing for a pardon.
Okay.
It's something that happened like I'm pushing 20 years since the incident. I'm wondering if you know anything about that and if they do grant pardons, because as far as I know, I think I'm one of the first persons to actually try to go through the full process of getting a pardon. Well, to my knowledge. Anyway.
Yeah, here in Pennsylvania, they do grant pardons. I mean, I actually saw one on paper one time that had been signed by the last governor. It's an arduous process, and before the governor can pardon you in Pennsylvania, they've got to have the unanimous consent of the Board of Pardons, which includes the Attorney General and includes some other people. And as a result, it's very tough to get through that. But they do grant them, yeah, and they do extensive investigations. I know another attorney who does some pardon work. I don't really do pardon work.
Right.
But I do know that it's an arduous process, and it's not often successful. And then the one that I saw in real life had language in it that said, oh, yeah, by the way, it's a conditional pardon, and if you ever seek expungement then you can't of your record, then this pardon's no good.
Well, there is a difference between an expungement and a pardon, correct?
Correct. And an pardon means you didn't do it. The expungement just means I'm going to make it so nobody can see that I ever did it. And I guess what the governor was saying was, you're pardoned, so you're not guilty of anything. But by the way, people are going to be able to see that you were once guilty of something and no longer guilty of something.
Right. Yeah, which I don't have a problem with. I mean, just being able to travel and just a privilege to do some outdoor hunting and stuff like that. That's just one of the issues.
Understand?
Yeah. So okay, I appreciate it.
All right, you take care.
All right, thank you.
Got to go to break. 540-0580. When we get back, we'll talk with Bob and Craig. Oh boy, $500 million loan for some solar cells. It's good. It's a good business deal. Actually, I think private investors are lost a couple of billion in that as well. So it wasn't completely a government scam. But my favorite part was Solyndra says, part of the problem is that the Chinese are subsidizing their solar industry, and that's why we can't compete. So the Chinese are bad because they're subsidizing their solar industry, and we're in trouble because we subsidized the losing side. I don't know. Sometimes I just wonder about these things. Anyhow, 540-0580. Bob, you're on the air.
Carl.
Yeah.
How are you today?
Good, my friend. How are you?
Good. Hey, I got a question about identity fraud. I don't know if I have anything to worry about or not. Over the past month at my house, I have gotten 6 pieces of mail, and 2 of them, I believe, are credit cards, and the other 4, I believe, are gift cards to Walmart. I didn't open them up, but just from the packaging, okay? Now, these all came to my house, but all 6 have different person's name on them except for 2 of them. Do I have anything to worry about, or is there who should I go see about this?
Well, you didn't open them, so we don't really know what was inside of them, right?
Right.
Probably if you get some more, I would open them and just see what we see. On the other hand, you might want to just take them to your local law enforcement, too, and say, hey, I just think there might be something going on here with some sort of identity fraud. But it could just be a wacky computer somewhere, too, that's got your address stuck with 10 names. You just never know. I mean, if they're legitimate, if they're actual credit cards and gift cards that somebody's ordering, then, yeah, there's something going on. Right. If they're just offers, then it's probably just some crazy bad marketing material out there somewhere with different names on your address.
Okay, because you hear so much about identity fraud that it's like I don't know if maybe somebody picked my house as a drop point or.
And that's the question. That's why I'm saying. I mean, if there's like a Visa card in there, for Carl Rominger or something, coming to your house, and you open it up and you go, oh, here's the new card and here's the activation strip and all this stuff, then that's definitely something shady going on.
Okay.
If it's just an offer, one of these, you've won, or sign up for your pre-approved Visa card, Bob, blah 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 blah. It could just be bad marketing.
Okay.
But the fact it's all happening at the same time, yeah, it should raise a flag. If you still have those things, if you just threw them out, you threw them out. If you have one or get more, I would take them to law enforcement. The other thing you can do just to make sure you're not compromised is do a credit check on yourself.
Okay.
And that's a really good idea because you want to see if there's anything showing up on your own credit or associated with you that you're not familiar with so that you can explore and make sure nobody's out there using your ID.
Right. Yeah, well, I still have the pieces of mail.
Yeah.
I thought I'd keep them because I didn't know if there's any more would come or not, but I haven't got any more. This happened all like in August.
Well, some of my crazy clients would say, he can't open them. They're not addressed to him. It's a federal offense. I think you could open one of them up to see who's sending you what. And if it, like I say, if it's having his actual credit card, I get it right to the police. If it's just some bad advertising circular, I'd throw it out.
Okay.
All right, brother.
Thanks much.
Enjoy your weekend.
You too.
540-0580 is the talk line number. If you have a legal question, call in. And, of course, just so you know, we practice throughout the mid-state. We've got offices in Lancaster, Harrisburg, Chambersburg, Carlisle. And we practice in all areas of the law. If we don't, we'll find you somebody that does what you need. Craig, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Carl. Sorry. Yeah, I have a question about divorce. Wife wants a divorce, hasn't done it yet, said she's going to file Monday.
Okay.
And I told her all along I didn't want it, didn't think it was a good idea. I guess my primary question is, I need a good referral. And actually, that's kind of a joke.
Right.
But I have a 15-year-old son. She's got, a good job. I'm actually currently unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
So a bit over the barrel. She's kind of taken total control. And I know in Pennsylvania, from what I understand, that if somebody wants a divorce, or in the whole country, if somebody wants a divorce, and they're willing to push it all the way through, there's nothing anyone can do to stop them for any reason. That's pretty much true, I guess.
Yeah, if you want to get divorced, you can get divorced.
Yeah. Well, I don't want it, but I'm not a fool, and I'm not going to continue playing one. We have a 15-year-old son.
Mm-hmm.
It's gotten to the point where I've been through 4 months of hope, hopelessness cycle, and I'm not going to do that anymore. Kind of strung along. I guess she's been thinking about it for a couple years, and I never found out till early May. So I'm still. I get over the initial bomb blast shock, and now I'm like, need to do something. For stability's sake, I plan on moving out, and for a number of reasons. And is that? Do I, relinquish any rights?
Yeah.
I do.
Well, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day in terms of who moves out and how does that work. Well, in Pennsylvania, if you file a divorce action, okay?
Yes.
And then you move out, it's sort of like, well, we filed a divorce action. It makes sense. We probably shouldn't be living together at this point. If you just walk out and never filed a divorce action, then the other side's going to argue strategically that was some kind of abandonment. On the other hand, if you leave on Monday and file a divorce on Wednesday, and I'm the judge, I could care less, right? Because I pretty much figured they're close enough together, they're one and the same. I guess another judge might not agree with me, but I think as the time expands, the argument comes in. The next question is whether that abandonment's material or not. But let's come to the custody side of the equation. Moving out and then filing for custody, as long as, again, if it's done within a short period of time, would not suggest to me that you are intending to abandon or intending to create a status quo. The ones where I see problems are where guys or gals move out, leave the kid behind in the other house, and do nothing for 6 months, 8 months, a year, and go, well, I wasn't really getting the visitation I wanted, but I was trying to get along, so I just, went over and saw the kid on Thursday nights and on Saturday afternoons.
Yeah.
When we get to court...
My intention is not, I guess intentions don't really matter when it comes to the law to a degree, but my intention is for stability for myself and my wife, and especially, most importantly, my son. Whatever, it's gotten to the point where, trust has been broken, and whatever she says, I can kind of take with a grain of salt. I do need to, get an attorney here real soon, obviously, but I told her I will not file, and so I kind of, it's like I kind of need to move out because there's a real temptation to start hating her, shall we say.
Well, listen. There are no exact right answers in these circumstances, okay? There's no exact right answers, but whatever you do it in consultation with an attorney. A lot of really smart clients come in and they see us before they move out, before they file anything, and we go over different ways of doing things. I just had a question the other day. Should I take money out of the... I got to let you go, my friend, but I'll be back for the next hour answering questions live here.
Producer, give me your number.
It's 241-6070, 241-6070. That's the office number if you need me, okay?
Thanks, Carl.
All right, take care. 540-0580. When we get back from the break, we'll keep taking your questions. Weekend appointment will continue.